Greetings and welcome to the Astronomy Picture of the Day podcast. Today's picture for February 11th of 2025 is titled "The Spider and the Fly." So what do we see here? Well, here we see two different nebulae in the sky and known as the Spider Nebula toward the center of the image, also known as IC 417. And to the lower left, we see the Fly Nebula, known as NGC 1931. Now here you may see it whimsically as perhaps the spider trying to catch the fly off there in the distance, or the fly flying away from the spider. And these are both partially at least emission nebulae. And in fact, the Spider Nebula is an emission nebula. And it gives off light because it is gases that are energized by the ultraviolet light of the hot stars that are present. What the ultraviolet light does is to rip the electrons off the atoms around there, primarily hydrogen atoms. And then when they recombine together, the electrons and protons will recombine and go through various energy levels. And one prominent wavelength of light will give off for hydrogen will be in the red portion of the spectrum, giving much of the Spider Nebula its distinct red color there. Now the Fly Nebula to the lower left here is also partially at least an emission nebula, giving off light from the glowing gases, but it's also partially a reflection nebula. Now a reflection nebula is a little bit different. It isn't by the energizing of gases, but it is caused by dust. And what the dust does is to scatter the light. So the light gets scattered around from the hot stars that are formed within the nebula. And preferentially, the dust scatters the shorter wavelengths, the blue colors. And that gives the reflection nebula a distinct blue coloration within the other nebula there. So we see both of these two, and they're both associated with regions of star formation. So when we see star formation, we tend to see three different types of nebulae. The emission nebula we see primarily in the red, the reflection nebula often appearing in a bluish color. And then we can see dark nebulae, dark dusty knots that are present, that are the regions where there is enough dust there to block out the light from behind. And that way it means you don't really get to see anything there. So the dark nebula will actually look like an absence of material. But in reality, it is actually more material. There is plenty of material there present that then blocks out the rest of the light from behind it, giving that illusion that everything is dark. So essentially it becomes opaque, blocking out all of the light from making its way through that portion of the nebula. And those are often the darkest, densest areas where stars are beginning to form at this time. So that was our picture of the day for February 11th of 2025. It was titled "The Spider and the Fly." We'll be back again tomorrow for the next picture, previewed to be asteroid revolution. So we'll see what that is about tomorrow. And until then, have a great day, everyone. And I will see you in class.